Welcome back, everyone, to the Burnout Club. This is the place where we explore burnout and success one expert and experiment at a time. I'm your host, Patrice Bonfiglio, and today I am joined by Barb Betts, CEO and keynote speaker, and I cannot wait to dive into her advice. She knows so much more about building relationships that are great for business and life. And I need a lot of help in that area because it's not my strong suit. So welcome, Barb.
Oh, thank you for having me, Patrice. I'm so happy to be here.
So let's dive in. What is your specialty? Because I think it's relationships, but why don't you give us a little bit about
Yeah.
who you are and what your major theme is?
Yeah. So my background in business and in life is over 20 years in real estate sales. So that's where I kind of started my adult career journey, if you will. Landed in real estate for lots of other reasons that we don't need to discuss today. But started building a business and transparently doing business the way I was taught, which
Mm.
was through cold calling and door knocking and internet leads and, all the traditional ways that real estate agents are taught to generate business. And none of it felt like me. And a long short story is I got chased by a dog one day while I was door knocking and ran down the street. Thank God there was no Ring doorbells or cameras back in the day, although it make for great footage right now. And I sat in my car, questioning every decision I had just made in this career, because in wanting to become a professional real estate agent, it was because I wanted to help people, right? I wanted
Mm.
to help people achieve a piece of the American dream. And I'm sitting in the car thinking, I am just being a pushy salesperson right now. That's all I'm doing. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do business this way. And so I've had a passion for relationships my whole life. It's actually only been in the last couple of years that I've really identified why I'm so passionate about relationships and why I'm so good at relationship building. But
Mm.
in that moment, I decided I'm not going to do business this way. I'm going to go to the people that already know me and like me. And I'm
Mm.
going to put myself in a position where they'll trust me as a real estate agent. So I started building a business by relationship. Fast forward over 20 years later, that's all I did my entire career. I built a brokerage that way. I've built multiple different versions of my real estate business that way. I've taught hundreds and thousands of agents to do business that way. I've mentored my own team members to do business that way. And it caused me to have extreme success my entire career. And so
Nice.
I now know that it's the key to all business success, not just real
Mm.
estate. And now that's what I speak on stages across the world, is how to build an effective business by relationship.
Well, that's great. I mean, talk about extreme success. That's what everyone is looking for. So, what is the first step? So, if someone is like having an aha moment right now, like, you know what? I do hate being salesy. I don't want to do this. And maybe their network is smaller than they want it to be. What's that first step to try to model what you've done?
Yeah, the first step is to understand and have a huge mindset shift that
Mm.
we can't take our relationships for granted. And what
Right.
I've learned in business and in life is everyone knows it's about relationships, right? Like everyone at the end of the day has been told that, believes that, knows that. I always say that I've been to 100 different keynotes. I've read a gazillion books. I've seen a bunch of podcasts and YouTube videos, and they're teaching you a tactic or a strategy or a script, right, for your sales business. And then at the
Mm.
end of that conversation, the host or the speaker will typically say, but you know what? It's really all about relationships. Like
Yeah,
everyone says it, but no one's
you're
teaching you how
right.
to actually do it. The mindset shift I want people to have is that you can't take them for granted. You have to actually
Mhm.
be intentional about them. And that's really the
Mhm.
first step, is a decision that I'm going to take relationship building seriously, and I'm going to
Yeah.
actually put some strategy behind it.
Yeah. So do you feel like you enjoy your relationships more than you did previously? I'm trying to think if there's actually like a personal benefit to this style as well.
Oh, absolutely. There's a personal benefit. So what I mentioned, when I was kind of sharing my background, is that I only identified why I'm so good at this and why I'm so passionate about it. I actually got asked a question after I was
Mm.
done speaking. And this woman came up to me and she said, when did you figure out that you're good at relationships and why? And I don't understand. And I really have had to like marinate on that question. I didn't have
Yeah.
an answer. right? And I'm like, why
Mm-hmm.
am I so good at it and other people struggle with it? And what
Mm-hmm.
I ended up through a lot of self-reflection, a lot of journaling, and a lot of like internal work is that it actually comes from my childhood. And so, long, short story, I was an only child. I was a latchkey kid. Both my parents worked outside of the home in the 80s and 90s, far away, and left before I got up in the morning and didn't get home till what would be past a normal dinner time. And I had to fend for myself. And
Mm-hmm.
many of my days and summers as a kid was spent at home by myself. And
Yeah.
so I now realize that when you go without something, when you go without connection and humans and feeling seen and valued, you will
Mm-hmm.
fight everything in your body to always have it and never be without it again. And
Yeah.
so I think at the end of the day, that's why I became a student of relationships and a student of human connection and latch on to human connection and fight to build that relationship and keep that relationship because I know what it's like to go without one.
Yeah.
And so I think that at the end of the day, we have to understand that that is the foundational principle of life. And, you know, we're in a loneliness epidemic. And the Surgeon
You
General in
are.
2023 actually came out with a study that said that lacking social connection is as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, that's something we have to wake up
That's
to,
awful.
right? Yeah. So my
Yeah.
story of being a lonely child is not
Mm-hmm.
just my story anymore. It's our story, right? We feel more connected than ever before because we can DM a stranger
Mm-hmm.
across the world, but yet we don't know our neighbors, right? We post our lives on social media, but no one knows what's really going on inside. We don't have real conversations. We just chat all day
Mm-hmm.
digitally. And that is the way to develop a relationship. And I've developed plenty of relationships that way. But at the end of the day, there is still that lack of human connection and people feeling truly understood and seen and valued and known and remembered. And we've
Yeah.
got to close that gap.
Yeah. I love everything that you just said. So, I mean, I feel like society just at large is now waking up to the fact that our relationships and connections they're not really at the level where they used to be when it was harder to build them to begin with or harder to start them. Do you find when you're speaking to so many different people just across the world that they are feeling empowered to actually do something about it, or do you think people feel stuck?
I think people feel stuck. I think that,
Mm.
again, they feel empowered to do it. They don't know how. Right. And
Okay.
I always say it's because you're not putting enough intention behind it. You're taking your relationships for granted. We're taught now to collect
Mhm.
contacts. We're not taught
Mhm.
how to build relationships. We're taught
Mm.
that having so many followers on social media is a badge of honor. We're taught how many people in our database or our email list, right, is a badge of
Mhm.
honor, and it's not. So I have a big statement I make in my keynotes, and it's kind of the moment where I watch the color run out of people's faces. And I specifically say it's not about how many people you know. It's
Yeah.
about how many people feel known by you.
Mm.
Right?
It's
It's
so
not
true.
how many contacts you have. It's about how
Yeah.
many of those contacts actually feel like they have a relationship with you because you make them feel known and seen and valued and remembered. And that takes
Yes.
intention. That does not happen overnight.
Right. And I would imagine that it's very easy to tell, right? If you're on this other side, if the person genuinely is trying to get to know you or is interested in you. So you do have to be intentional. So, wow, how do you just pick one person and then experiment
Yeah,
like
no,
that?
you can't just pick one person, right? So I have an overarching framework that I teach everybody about how do you actually build these real relationships, and it is in the
Mhm.
acronym BUILD because every good speaker has a framework with some kind of
Yeah.
acronym. And so
Yeah.
it's be authentically you, right? For the first step is showing up as your real self because I firmly believe you can't have a real relationship with anyone else till you have one with yourself because otherwise, who are you showing up
Mhm.
as? The
Yeah.
you is understand others. Like, are we truly understanding
Mhm.
others and seeking to understand the people that we're trying to have a relationship with? And I teach that through
Mhm.
something I call a connection loop, which is where we actually have to train ourselves to truly listen to understand. And then we've got to
Mhm.
invest with intention, right? Then we have to have a systematic strategy to actually investing in these relationships. The L is leverage moments, right? We've got to take moments that happen every day in our lives and in these relationships and actually do something about them. And then the D is in business or in life, we have to deliver extraordinary value, right? It's not just enough to be nice or to be liked. You have to show up in a way that people are like, we'll never forget you. But to your initial question of how do you start? If I was speaking to a business owner specifically, that's the easiest way to kind of talk about this is I would say make a list of all your relationships, right? At least get to 100 people. Likely it's much longer than that, right? But your top 100 people in your life. And then you have to start systematically ranking them. And I know that sounds transactional, but you can't treat everyone in your life the same. Right? If you try to treat everyone in your life the same, you're going to be Southwest Airlines. And let's face it, Southwest Airlines is figuring out that you can't treat everyone the same, right? Like they're going through this evolution right now of we've got to let people feel important and special on the airplane. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So you rank your relationships, and I just say rank it simply. I use a 5-star system because everyone understands the difference between a 5-star experience and a 1-star experience. So rank them and rank them by level of relationship. How closely connected are you? How much does this person already love and adore you? How close in proximity are you to this person? And so you rank your relationships, and then you literally start with your 5-star relationships. Like you got to start there. You got to start with the most important people in your life, but you have to embody some kind of system where you're staying in consistent contact with all of those people in order to build the real relationships that you want. So it starts with organizing. It starts with making a list. It starts with all of those things. And then from there, how do we systematically stay in connection and contact with these people?
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to tell someone you're the Southwest Airlines of human connection.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take that mantra. You tell everybody, that because it really is. Why do people stay loyal to an airline? I'm an American Airlines girl because of airport logistics, and I'm an executive platinum member, and, they take care of me. If there's a delay or if I have a misconnection, I'm the first one to get rebooked. I don't have to worry about not getting a seat on the next flight. And I'm a 5-star relationship for them. And you have to treat people in your life like that. Otherwise, you water down the experience for everybody.
Yeah. And I guess, naturally, like when you're bringing it back to people, you're building that trust, and it should be a 5-star relationship both ways, right? Not just one way when you're working on it.
And I always say, don't go up to Patrice and be like, you used to be a 5-star and now you're a 4-star. You're sliding down in the scale. Like this is between you and your CRM or you and your spreadsheet. This is not a conversation that you have with people. You show them by intentionality, right? You show them by how you show up for them.
Yeah. And then can you just talk a little bit about how, when you're doing that initial ranking, I'd imagine that, your family, right? Your spouse, your kids, your best friends are going to be in that 5-star level, but you also need to include some business context. Do you ever have situations or people that you're advising where on the business side, it's so much more transactional that there's no one in the 5-star realm? They've poured everything on the personal side?
Yeah, no. So, and when I teach business owners specifically how to rank your database and your clients, I always say you rank it based on 2 factors: your level of relationship with somebody combined with their ability to either do business with you or refer you. Right. So you mentioned family. Obviously, my family is always going to be 5-star relationships in my life. But when I'm talking about it from a business capacity, let's just use my best friend as an example. So my best friend's name is Katrina, and she is a 1st grade teacher. Okay. In my real estate business, she is a 5-star relationship because she has the ability to refer me to other humans because everyone needs shelter. Okay.
Yes.
Let's contrast that in my speaking practice. Katrina's not a 5-star relationship when I am looking to build relationships for keynote speaking because Katrina doesn't have the ability to refer me because I don't speak in education, right? Right. She doesn't know corporate CEOs like you might know CEO. So it doesn't mean that I treat Katrina differently because she's my best friend. But if Katrina was just an everyday client, she's going to be lower on my list in my keynote speaking business than she would be in my real estate practice. So you have to value the relationship based on your level of relationship with somebody
Hmm.
combined with their ability to help you in your business. Because if we're talking about your precious time during the day where you're
Yeah.
supposed to be doing lead generation activities for your business, you better be doing those lead generation activities with the people that are most likely to be able to connect you
Hmm.
to others.
Yeah. And that's a great filter too, because I think there's so much to do and people tend to get burnout from just trying to reach out to so many
Yeah.
people. And at the end of the day, they're not the right ones sometimes.
And I always say, like, you can have multiple different lists, right? You can have
Yeah.
your business list and then you can have your personal life list. So Katrina is a
Hmm.
5-star all day long, probably a 6-star in my personal life. So I
Hmm.
prioritize time with her on the weekends. I prioritize
Hmm.
girls' nights, things like that, versus
Yeah.
other friends that are lower on the list. But if I'm
Hmm.
doing my Monday through Friday, Barb's here working as a speaker, I'm
Yeah.
not worried about connecting with Katrina for the day because,
Hmm.
first of all, she's teaching school and I don't want to interrupt
Yeah.
her. But second of all, like, she's not going to help me necessarily move the needle forward in my speaking practice.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense. I like the idea of having the different lists. And for anyone that's insanely busy that's listening, you'll know sometimes things get pushed by the wayside. So if you can remember like, oh no, these are my 2, 3 lists, and I need to make sure I'm cultivating each one, including, the family or the personal side. That's a great reminder, right? Because you'll see those lists. You need
Yeah,
to actually be intentional.
you have to be intentional. And then,
Mhm.
from there, to not leave anybody hanging, what I do with those 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is I put them on a systematic connection system. So the
Mhm.
whole point behind that is, in my world, now you can set up any kind of system you want because every business is going to have different ebbs and flows. But in my
Mhm.
world, my 5-star relationships hear from me personally every 30 days, 4 stars every
Okay.
60 days, 3 stars every 90, 2 stars once a quarter. And then 1 stars are literally a mailing list. It's okay to
Mhm.
have a transactional mailing list in business, right? We all have
Yeah.
them. Somebody
Hmm.
that subscribed to your email list that I have no idea who you are. We don't
Yeah.
have a relationship. And so
Hmm.
you're on
Yeah.
my 1-star list. And so how do I systematically make sure that my 5 stars are hearing from me every month, my 4 stars every 60, my 3 stars 90, 2 stars once a quarter, and you're off to the races?
Yeah. I like that you're making it so easy, right?
It,
That's
it isn't
like
hard.
seamless to remember. Yeah.
It's just, you just got to do it. And that's the hard part, right? You just have
Yeah.
to do
Yeah. So now that you figured this part out, is there anything that you feel like is difficult with how business is changing or AI, or is there any shift that you've had to make recently or want to talk about?
I think that the shift with AI is understanding you shouldn't be afraid to use AI. You should use AI. AI, in my opinion, is one of the biggest gifts. Will be a bigger shift than the internet even was. You
Mhm.
should use AI to help create better systems and strategy and do things more efficiently, and maybe not have as many help in your business where it costs you money for having staff because there's a tool that really AI can replace with, right?
Yeah.
However, the shift I see happening is we're putting so much effort and attention into AI and automation and all of these things, we're forgetting about human connection, and human connection's drifting even further away. And at the end of
Hmm.
the day, AI will never replace a human to human relationship. And
Hmm.
we have to make sure we don't let that part of our life drift away, because last time I checked, but AI doesn't refer you business. AI doesn't necessarily introduce you to another human. It can tell you the humans you should go be introduced to, but it can't actually
Yeah.
do. I mean, it can do a cold email. I mean, I have tech guys that get into this with me all the time. Like, well, technically, and I'm like, okay, stop. In real human
Sit
to
down.
human, I was with my friend Sean Dubravok this last week, and he was like, well, you do know that there's now robot humans that have like real soft skin and like look like humans and move like humans. I'm like, okay, Sean, stop. Am I going to have to be as specific to say a human with a heart? Like, we're going to have to get that granular. But you know what? I probably will. I probably will from stage
Yeah.
have to start dropping the human
Yeah.
relationship with a heartbeat, because people
Yeah.
are going to. And what's scary about this is
Mhm.
I do advocacy work for the real estate industry, and I
Yeah.
was in Sacramento at our state capitol just a few months ago, and we were standing in an assembly member's office, and the closed circuit TV was on showing a hearing going on in a chamber, and they had
Yeah.
the closed caption on, and so I could read it, and they were talking about a bill, and they were calling it something about the childhood companion AI bill, because
Oh.
kids are actually going to AI and creating friendships and relationships because they don't have any. And they're doing things to themselves and taking advice from a chat bot
Mm-hmm.
because they feel so connected to them. And I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, we have to stop that.
We have to stop that. Yeah.
And I mean, I guess the greatest way is to model actually doing it in real life. So you're not just doing it for you and your business, you're doing it for the next generation.
Correct.
Make sure they retain the skills.
Correct. Yes, you're right. You're so
Oh,
right.
that's fantastic. So why don't we take a step to the side for a second? And I've seen some great things that you've put out about, confidence and making sure that you're your authentic self. Can you talk a little bit about that and give any feedback or advice to the
Yeah.
listeners?
I always say the most important relationship you'll ever have in life is the one you have with yourself. And I
Mhm.
truly believe that's where it all starts. And I believe wholeheartedly that you cannot build a real relationship with anyone unless
Mhm.
you love the one that you're living in. And
Yeah.
that's something I had to learn. I had to really learn the difference in me and my ability to
Mhm.
connect and my ability to relate and my ability to be empathetic and all the things that go on in life and business didn't really happen until I started being like, I'm pretty cool and I'm good with
Yeah.
myself. And I actually like this body that I walk around in. And it does take work and all of the things. But when
Mhm.
we talk about this word authenticity, I get so frustrated, right? Because authenticity, in my opinion, is such an overused word. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
overused, it's underexplained. And even if we
Mhm.
both have a definition of it, likely our definitions are different. And I'm so tired of authenticity being put in this box of just be authentic, just be yourself. Well, what does that
Mhm.
even mean?
Yeah.
And we've put authenticity in, you have to go find it and you have to go do it. And I think the problem with that is what's happening is we're starting to perform it. We're starting to
Mm.
perform who we think we're supposed to be instead of being who we think we're supposed to be. And so
Yeah.
my definition of authenticity that I share with audiences and where it all starts is authenticity isn't doing anything. Authenticity
Mhm.
is undoing everything that isn't you, right? It's not
Ooh,
about
I
adding
like
anything
that.
new. It's about undoing the layers of performance and protection that we've put around ourselves. That's
Oh,
where
I love
authenticity
that.
really begins. And so the good news is you don't have to do anything new. You just have
It's
to undo everything that isn't you. And once you do that
so,
work, that's when,
mhm.
because, they say, I laugh, authenticity. It's not throwing up all your thoughts and opinions on somebody. Like it's okay to have a filter. It's a good idea to have a filter.
Yeah, I
It's
second
not
that. Yes.
about sharing every deep, dark secret you've ever
Mm.
had in your life with everybody on the internet, right?
Yeah.
But it is showing up as the real you. It is letting those parts of you that you've kept hidden because you've been told you're too much or you're not enough.
Hmm.
It's
Uh-huh.
about reframing comparison in this comparison world that we live in when we're trying to compare
Uh-huh.
ourselves to someone else's journey, which is impossible. It is about the mantra of stop seeking approval. Like you're trying to
Hmm.
seek approval from everybody. And it
Hmm.
definitely is my favorite is we've got to start embracing self-doubt. We've got to stop looking at self-doubt as a negative and start looking at
Yeah.
it as the container where our confidence is actually born, right? Like
Ooh.
tell me someone who's confident, tell me someone who's successful, and I will tell you someone that has always doubted themselves, but has
Hmm.
pushed through it. And so how do
Yeah.
we stop looking at imposter syndrome and self-doubt as this
Hmm.
negative? Where, in my opinion, you have to have that in order to grow, in order to figure out who you really are.
Yeah. Right. Just like there's going to be moments that you're afraid, right? But you do it anyway. So
You
yeah.
do it anyways, and that's where
Yeah.
you learn who you really are. That's where you learn where your strengths are. That's where you learn how to work through things. That's where you learn your actual capabilities. You'll never know your
Mhm.
capability if you don't put yourself out there.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure the listeners are pausing to, write down or just note the thing you said where you're trying to undo the performance and the protections that you wrapped around yourself. I think that's a great way to think about it, right? Because a lot of people are just getting nauseous every time they hear the word authentic, for good reason, because it's always around and everywhere. But all of us have some sort of protection that we've armed ourselves with from, childhood, whatever it is, and varying degrees of severity. But it's good to have a voice that's in the back of your head saying, why do I make decisions that way? Or why do I do things that way? From a curious standpoint, right?
Mhm.
So you can know, oh, do I actually need this? Or was this a crutch that I, whittled
Yeah, I
together a
always say
long time ago?
when you go to therapy, they're not talking to you about the future. They're asking you about your past because they know that's where everything you're dealing with is coming from. Like I always say in my
Yeah.
keynote, you were born bald and naked. You weren't born afraid to stand out. You were bald and
Yeah.
naked. You were taught that standing out is risky. Like that's the
Yeah.
problem. And then we start hiding and then we start hiding all these parts of ourselves that really are our unique competitive advantage, which is us.
Yeah.
Unless you're
No,
an identical twin and then I say you have an out, but unless you're an identical twin, there's nobody else like you.
I love all the caveats. Yeah. So, I mean, this is great to prepare people to actually take it and have practical steps to follow. So let's say you're there, you're working on yourself and you're trying to have it be your essence and you're intentional with your relationships. At that point, I would love to know once you've identified who you are and you're interested in talking to, person A, how do you just get right down into the most interesting part of the conversation instead of all the fluff and, the chitter chatter? No one cares about the weather or anything. How do you have those interesting conversations?
Right. When you go to the networking event, you're like, oh, how was your travel here? Did your flight
Yeah.
land on time?
Yeah. Everybody says no.
It drives me and I get it. I get it. So I think the
Mhm.
first thing is you have to learn how to ask great questions, right? And I can't give
Mhm.
you the questions to ask because they'll have to be authentic to you, but you have to learn how to ask beyond
Yeah.
surface level questions,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not the question expert. I'm not the networking
Yeah.
expert, but I do know
Mhm.
asking great questions and asking the question after the question is really what the skill is. I've had a skill
Yeah.
of I ask you a question, then you ask me a question, and I answer that question, but then I'm immediately trying to get another question out of you, right? It's whoever
Yeah.
is the most curious is going to win. Where my
Mhm.
superpower is in how do you really understand people and how do you
Mm.
actually listen to understand? And I call it a connection loop because it's something you have to do
Okay.
over and over again. So how do you create
Mhm.
connection? So it's 4 steps.
Mhm.
It's listen, it's notice, it's document, and then connect. And so what do I mean by that?
Mhm.
First,
Yes.
listening, but listening to ask more questions, not listening to respond. Like
Mhm.
truly listening. And I always say people are telling you everything you need to know. You're just not listening, right?
Mhm.
Then it's notice. It's noticing tone. It's noticing body language. It's noticing when someone is going to say something and then they don't, right? Have you ever heard that
Mhm.
person start a sentence and then they're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's important to them. They're just now afraid to talk about it. So how do you start noticing these things when they get excited
Mhm.
about something, when they start, their body language changes when someone else walks in the room, right?
Mm.
Or you're a
Yeah.
leader and you're sitting there with your team and every time John walks in the room or John talks, Patrice stops talking. Like, are
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
noticing those things? Then
Mm.
document. And document is my superpower. And what do I mean by document? I mean actually writing down the things that someone has told you so you can remember it. And I
Mm.
use
Good
the
tip.
notes app on my phone at networking events. I use a notebook when I'm
Mhm.
in meetings and I'm writing down things Patrice is telling me about her family and kids. I'm writing down your
Mhm.
favorite glass of wine because you have red wine in your hand. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you a red wine lover like me? And you're like, oh my God, yes,
Yeah.
I love Cab more than anything in the world, where I'm noting that down. So if I ever have to give Patrice a gift, I'm going to give you what you actually like. So
Yeah.
are you truly documenting these things that people are telling you so that before the next client meeting or before the next time you see somebody, you can
Mhm.
reference them back? And then the
Yeah.
fourth step is connect. You have to actually do something with the information you're learning about somebody, right? You have to actually connect with
Right.
that and do something with it. And so if you take that intentionality with people that you're meeting that you, to your point,
Mhm.
actually want to build a relationship with. I don't do it with every human I talk to. I just got back from a networking event and
Yeah.
75% of the people I talk to at the opening night mix are not people that I'm at that level yet that I even necessarily care about developing the relationship with. But the people that I
Mhm.
do, or the people where the conversation got real, I am now taking that into my system so I can continue to develop the relationship. Here's the problem.
Yeah.
Relationships don't happen over a networking event. but we're
Hmm.
literally
Yeah.
collecting contacts. How many times have you been asked to beam your information phone to phone now? That's the new way of exchanging business cards. What the heck
Right.
does that do? Where does that go? How are you even going to remember what their name was?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I
Which is
know,
why
because
I
I'm
don't
not
like
doing that
doing
well.
that. I will take your phone number because I'm going to put in
Hmm.
there
Hmm.
Patrice, and I'm going to put in your company area, I might put this
Yeah.
organization we're at together, where you told me you live or what you do. So when I need to remember you, I'm not going to remember your
Hmm.
name. I'm going to remember something about you and find you in my phone that way. Just
Yeah.
these are little things and skills that we have to develop to truly
Hmm.
show somebody that we want to have this relationship and that we
Yeah.
care enough to have this relationship, and then intentionally, taking the relationship on from there.
Yeah. And you're so right. When someone is reaching out to you or connecting again, and they do remember and they bring it up, and like, oh, they're so good at this. It's really noticeable and
You know,
commendable.
It is. I actually have a real quick funny story. I was just at this
Yeah.
networking event I keep talking about. It's actually where I met the
Hmm.
person that connected us together.
Oh,
And
nice.
I love Starbucks. I always have a Starbucks
Mhm.
in my hand in the morning. This hotel didn't have a
Mhm.
Starbucks, so I DoorDash Starbucks. And there's two people that
Nice.
are very important to me in this community. They're kind of like the mama hens of the community. And a few meetings ago, we're talking like 6 months ago, I got them coffee and I texted them in the morning and said, "Hey, I'm grabbing Starbucks. What's your favorite order?" They both sent me their
Yeah.
orders. Got them Starbucks that
Yeah.
day. Great. Nice gesture. What
Hmm.
I do differently than most humans is I put their Starbucks order in my CRM. So I now
I
have their
love that.
Starbucks order. And so
Hmm.
this trip, I didn't ask them if they wanted Starbucks. I just got
Hmm.
them their Starbucks. And I walked into the ballroom with a bag of Starbucks and I saw Ginny's eyes kind of like peek up, like, ooh,
Like,
she got Starbucks. Then I opened the
mhm.
bag and walked towards Jenny with her coffee and the
Yeah.
look on her face. And she said to me, "How did you?" And all of a sudden she goes, "Oh, you did your thing. You did
Yeah.
it to me." And
It
it was
is
like, "Well,
working.
at least you know when I teach this, I actually do this." And she's like, "You know my Starbucks order." I'm like, "I do." That doesn't happen
Yeah.
by accident. That takes
Yes.
noticing and that takes
Hmm.
documenting. And then I used
Yeah.
it to connect because she's going to
Hmm.
remember that forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
Because you actually made her feel special and
Correct.
notice and caffeinated,
Remember,
right? Just like
and
you met
caffeinated,
a basic human need.
right? And caffeinated.
There's nothing better than that. When it's like
Yeah.
you have that surprise, like, oh, yes, this is exactly what I need. Oh, that is so good. I think there's going to be way more coffee orders now after this.
Right? I'm like, nobody has my coffee order in their phone though, except for my husband. Actually, my son too, but
Yeah, yeah. You're going to start a trend now. People are going to remember it. Oh, this is so good. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about you are part of a, very powerful speaking circle. Can you talk a little bit about your favorite speaking engagement or conference that you ever did and like what made that special for you?
the groups that I belong to in my own personal growth and development journey are just so special to me because it's about the
Mm.
people. So I don't have
Yeah.
like a favorite experience or speaking engagement. For me, it's just the people that I meet along the way, right? It's about the
Mhm.
relationships in the room. It's about the stories. It's about the journey. It's about how can I help people and impact people. So I don't have
Mhm.
anything specific. I think it just comes down to knowing that you're in rooms where other people care enough to grow and learn alongside you and develop
Mm.
these relationships and these friendships.
In the last, let's say, 6 months, have you been in a room where people are looking forward to growing and changing everything that you just said? Because sometimes there's points in our lives where we realize like, oh, I'm not in those rooms. Everyone around me is stuck, right? I feel stuck. So if you're not in those rooms, get in those rooms. Figure out where they
Yeah,
are, who's there,
finding your
and do it.
finding your people and finding your community, I think, is incredibly important for anyone in business. It's why associations matter so much, like the association
Mhm.
of blah, 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 right? Because
Yeah.
everyone's there with the same, goal and the same struggles and challenges, not to the exact same extent, but like you have this
Mhm.
shared connection.
Yeah.
And so finding communities that you can engross yourself in and learn from and grow from and build these relationships with people who get you and understand you, which is why this keynote speaking community that I'm a member of, that I've talked so much about because I just came home from an event, we're all supporting each other because we all have similar struggles and challenges. Like we get each other and we understand each other. If I was hanging out, for instance, all my best friends are teachers, funny enough, but like I don't talk about my speaking challenges with them because they have no idea, but they talk all about their teacher challenges with me because it's a group of teachers and me. So yeah, I think finding those shared values and identities and challenges is incredibly important.
Yeah. And then I want to try something brand new where I ask you if you could think of one challenge for me to take on personally, or it could be the listeners, I guess. What challenge would you pose for me to try it?
I would say the challenge I have for anybody listening is to actually look at your network, look at the people that you think you have relationships with, and really do a self-evaluation of how much do I really know about them? When's the last time I connected with them? When's the last time I reached out with no intention except for to just see how they're doing? When's the last time I shared a moment with them? When's the last time I acknowledged their birthday? When's the last time I treated them as a human over a transaction, a commission check, a paycheck, right? And really evaluate yourself, because what I can tell you is that every opportunity in life is attached to a relationship. And every relationship you let drift away or you ignore could be an opportunity you're missing. And the problem is we expect something from somebody when we haven't taken any time to develop the relationship. And that's where we have this disconnect. So it's really doing a self-evaluation of how close are you really to the people in your life, and differently to change that going forward.
What a good challenge, right? Because it's not just like the high-end business contacts, it's people on your team. Right? It's like,
correct.
How many human level interactions have you really had? Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. When's the last time you asked the people that report to you, like sat down and had a cup of coffee with them and just talked about them? Like, right? When's the last time you actually just chatted with your neighbor or your mom, right? Or your spouse at home? I mean,
because sometimes that goes
these
the wayside.
relationship skills are not just for business. They're for life. They're human.
Oh, well, that's a great way to sum up the conversation. Oh, that's been fantastic. I really appreciate everything that you've shared, and I will follow your advice and I will take on your challenge. I know the results may or may not be that great, but I can own it and then do something about it. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This has been super fun.
Yes. And is there anything special that you have going on that you want the listeners to know about, or a place they can go to follow you?
I just tell everybody, follow me on Instagram. That's where I love to hang out. I'm just simply at Barb Betts, easy to find. LinkedIn, obviously, is where I share a ton of thought leadership. And then I do have my own podcast, Relationships Are Your Superpower, which is all about relationships with ourselves, with others, and relationships that make an impact. And yeah, just, come along on the journey. I have a Saturday little love letter email I send out every Saturday with just relationship tips and thoughts and stories and lots of ways to connect. I'm easy to find. And yeah, I'd love to share the journey with you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Barb. You've made my day. I have so much to learn from you.
Good. I'm glad.
All right. And to the listeners, I hope you have enjoyed this episode as much as I have. Make sure that you like and review and follow, and I will see you next time.